Hello everybody, Vic here with another video, and today I'm talking They Live, the John Carpenter classic from 1988, one of my favorite films in the John Carpenter filmography. I've seen this movie so many times, I've quoted this movie so many times. It's a yearly rewatch for me, so I want to discuss They Live today. Of course, in the comments, give me your thoughts on They Live, and if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you've not. I'm going to be doing a deep dive on a lot of John Carpenter films, probably my favorite horror director next to Wes Craven, so I want to go through a lot of his films, Prince of Darkness, In the Mouth of Madness, want to revisit that. Christine, a lot of good ones here. But They Live, I have a very unique, nostalgic relationship with They Live. It was one of the first movies I rented on video back in the day. Back in the 90s, renting videos was all the rage. That's how I would catch up on all my 80s horror films, was usually on video. Sometimes you catch these films on TV, but then it's the TV version, so you still feel like you have to rent it and watch it on video to get the real deal. I mean, I saw the Halloween TV version many times before seeing the actual Halloween version or movie and was quite surprised to see the difference there. So They Live, huge fan because I saw it as a kid on video, but then also I was a huge wrestling fan growing up. So the fact that I had Roddy Piper, who would show up in a lot of different movies in the 90s, believe it or not. He actually had a quite extensive filmography in terms of the amount of movies he did, but him showing up here for me was like a perfect combination of things I loved as a kid, which was wrestling and horror films. So you got the perfect jumbo here for Vic at least. But let's talk about John Carpenter, of course. In the 80s, he had a great run. I mean, he was knocking out. Now, they weren't great box office hits, but in terms of movies that would age well, that would still be cult classics to this day, it was an amazing run. You think about Christine, you think about Big Trouble in Little China, Starman, Escape from New York, Prince of Darkness. The man was on a roll in terms of, really could do no wrong in the 80s. I mean, those movies are films that people still watch to this day. I have most of them on 4K, on Blu-ray. I'm sure most of you have some kind of copy of these films, but They Live was an interesting moment for John Carpenter. He had signed a deal with Alive Films. You want to get away from studio productions. He didn't have a good experience with studio productions on like Big Trouble in Little China, on The Thing. So he wanted to do his own thing. So he went to a smaller company, Alive Films, which, interesting enough, also Wes Craven went to the same company as well. Wes Craven went to Alive Films and made Shocker and The People on the Stairs, but this was the first of the Alive films for John Carpenter. And They Live is an interesting film because on the surface and watching as a kid, I didn't pick up on all the political commentary. I was just thinking, hey, fun, sci-fi, aliens taking over action film, hell yeah. But as an adult, you watch and you really see that John Carpenter had a lot of messages he was putting in They Live. John Carpenter, famously, very much a Democrat. A lot of this film is just based on his perspective of the Ronald Reagan era of the 80s, Republicans, the middle class being wiped out, people selling out to get rich. There's all kinds of messaging here in the film as our hero, Roddy Piper Nada, awakens to pretty much the world he's living in. Aliens are there and basically sending messages for human beings to consume and to sell out. And again, I didn't pick up as a kid, but as an adult, I watch and I think, oh, this is a very interesting way to get your political perspective across. And, it's blanketed, of course, in this fun sci-fi sort of action film. Now, They Live, Roddy Piper and Keith David. I'll tell you what, I want to start off with talk about the best fight scenes of all time. We got basically like a 7 to 8 minute fight scene here between Roddy Piper and They Live. The whole idea being, put on the glasses! Keith David wants nothing to do with what Roddy Piper's talking about in terms of picking up the glasses, so he chooses instead to engage in fisticuffs. And this fight scene is everything to me. Even if I don't do a full rewatch of They Live, I'll still go back sometimes very periodically and just watch this fight scene on YouTube. Roddy Piper was a wrestler, so of course he knew how to choreograph this perfectly, but this looks like just two friends going at it, beating the shit out of each other for 6-7 minutes. The fight will come to an end, then start up again, come to an end, start up again. It looks as real as possible in terms of the blows are thrown at each other. So it looks like a very realistic fight scene. There's some funny moments in it. This fight scene is probably what makes They Live legendary to the average fan. Of course, if you're a Carpenter fan, you love the movie, period. But even if you're not a Carpenter fan, you probably have heard or seen this They Live fight scene. It was obviously parodied also on South Park as well. So this fight scene is everything. But tracing back now, the movie starts off with, this drifter guy who's really not named in the film, but his character's name is Nada, played by Roddy Piper. He's going, I guess, drifting throughout the country, walking with his backpack, trying to find a job. Of course, again, this was the 80s where a lot of, I guess, what this movie's telling me is that a lot of things, a lot of banks and a lot of, jobs were scarce for the middle class. So this guy's going from town to town, ends up here, and basically can't find any work, so he's relegated to, basically staying at a kind of a homeless shelter area, which Keith David, who works with at a construction site, puts him onto. So the early movie is just, this guy here at the homeless place, and you just get a real feel for the lifestyle, the struggle these people are going through. It's a very calm, slow-paced 20, 30 minutes to open the film. You get the day-to-day life of these people, what they're going through. There are some hints of something weird going on because there's a church across the street which is doing all kinds of weird activity at all times of the night, and Roddy Piper is suspicious of that. But mostly, this is just Carpenter setting the stage for what these people were going through, what the environment was. And he actually enlisted real homeless people to be in these scenes, too, so there's an authenticity to it as well. Some people have claimed They Live to be a slow-paced film at the beginning. I will say that this film it's 90 minutes, basically, but it's not in a rush at all. The first 30, 40 minutes, it is slow-paced because they're establishing the environment, establishing what's going on with these people, and how that's going to then inform the second half of the film. But I enjoy it. I think there's a lot of good acting going on here. I think it's a depressing representation of what was going on back then. So I'm okay with it, planting the seeds. It is a slow pace, but about halfway through, after the whole, Roddy Piper finds the glasses, puts on the glasses, starts to notice the world around him, the second half is balls to the wall. You get just straight action scenes, one-liners. The one-liners here would be used again, in Duke Nukem. Mama doesn't like tattletales, and I've come to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. So many good lines here. That's like pouring perfume on a pig. There's so many good lines here, and some of these lines were Roddy Piper improvising or just actually taking lines from wrestling promos, unused lines from there that he gave to Carpenter. Carpenter's like, yeah, this works perfectly. Second half is balls to the wall. Acting-wise, Keith David is always reliable. I mean, he was fantastic in The Thing with John Carpenter, so I'm not surprised that Carpenter wanted to list him here to work together as well. And him and Roddy Piper have a decent chemistry. I mean, it's not just the fight scene, but you kind of buy these guys as, would never be friends in a different lifetime, but in this situation thrown together, they're on board to fight the forces of evil. And we also have an actor named Holly who, played by Meg Foster, has those crazy looking eyes. Her eyes always scared me in films, but I've seen her in a lot of different horror films, horror settings. She's also in The Stepfather too. And she plays a woman who works at the TV station who happens to be the wrong place, wrong time. Roddy Piper, on the run from the cops/aliens, has to basically take her hostage. They go back to her apartment. Brief little bit of, them sort of establishing maybe a romantic chemistry. It never really takes off, though, and then she busts his ass in the back of the head with a bottle, and he's flying down a hill, which I'm sure Roddy Piper did all his own stunts here, so it looks fantastic. Eventually, it's revealed that she was working with the aliens, but I do always watch the movie and wonder, at what point did she sell out to the aliens? Was she already in on it at the time the Roddy Piper takes her hostage, or was it sometime in between where he sees her again? Because she shows up at the meeting of the rebels, basically, and, quite the coincidence, and then the bad guys just infiltrate the meeting and come in and bust the whole thing up and basically kill all the rebels, and that's probably because Holly had given them the tip. But at what point in the movie did she sell out, or was she always in on it? Of course, that gets us to the end here at the TV station, our climactic battle, which unfortunately takes out Keith David unceremoniously, and then Roddy Piper, with his last breaths, shoots a satellite, thus exposing the world to the aliens. Look, the second half of this film is just some of my favorite Carpenter stuff as well. The shootouts, the fight scene, the one-liners, the action here. It's balls to the wall in the last 40 minutes, no question about it. If there's a downside They Live, it's only that this idea is so big that it kind of feels underexplored. It's too big for one movie. I mean, there's a lot to dig into here, and the movie does kind of end abruptly. I would say that this is one of those films that could benefit from being, I actually like movies that are more like an hour and a half, hour, 45-minute range, but this movie actually needed another half an hour, in my opinion. This didn't need to be a 2-hour film because there's ideas here that need to be explored. I mean, there's so much left on the table. I'm shocked there hasn't been a sequel, and even better, this movie would be an amazing TV show. I think they should kind of go that route, maybe bring back They Live as a TV show because there's a lot to explore here. So the first half is a little bit slow, but I enjoy it. And then the second half is balls to the wall, amazing, but then it ends very quickly. So I would like more, there's more meat on the bones, left on the bones here. It feels like a half-eaten chicken wing in my opinion. So They Live, I think, could have been better with a little bit more added on, a little more exploration of the ideas here. But overall, I'm a huge fan of They Live. I think that if you haven't seen it, you got to sit down and watch it as soon as possible. It's a fantastic hour and a half. Carpenter in his prime, peak late 80s, probably. Now, I can't say it's his last great film because In the Mouth of Madness was in the 90s. But yeah, if you like sci-fi, aliens, or even if you just like movies with that low-key political message, this is the movie for you. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on They Live, and I'm going to be reviewing a lot more Carpenter films going forward. Until next time, you guys take care.